Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Hank. Today I'm going to talk about the multiple exposure mode for the Canon EOS RP. Okay, very quickly about the history of the multiple exposure. A long time ago, when we have film cameras, once in a while, uh, for whatever reason, when they advance the film frame, it got stuck. It doesn't get advanced. So people when they expose it, uh, they multiple expose the same frame of film, and that kind of created very interesting images. In some cases, sometimes it's very ghostly looking, very interesting. So people grow to like it. So manufacturers start to put in a feature so that you can purposely do that. Okay, so you can press a button and then you can advance the frame, and the film actually didn't advance, so you can do the multiple exposure. So that became an art form of sort for photography. Now, when digital cameras come out, so the manufacturers decided that, hey, let's retain this feature. So a lot of cameras, especially the more high-end camera, they retain that feature for artistic purposes. All right. So so now the Canon EOS RP does have this mode. However, I must warn you that the mode for the Canon RP is very basic compared to some of the other Canon cameras, such as the 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV, 5DSR cameras that I'm familiar with. It has a lot more feature. So today we're going to strictly talk about features on the RP. All right. Now, by default, as you know, multiple exposure is not selected until you activate it. So this is how you activate it. Okay, go to menu and you go to the red tab, and under red tab number 5, you will find multiple exposure. All right. So the default is disabled. So you have to enable it, right? So I'm going to explain the choices that you have. Um, the first one down is multiple exposure control. Okay, so you press set on that. You only have two kinds. Okay, one's additive. Okay, when you choose additive, what it means is like it will simply take the first exposure, right? The second exposure is going to be the same as the first exposure, and then it just add up the exposure on top of each other. So if you take two pictures, it'll be one stop brighter because it exposed the image twice, right? So when you do additive, it's kind of manual control. So you have to account for the fact that it's going to double expose the exposure. So you have to back it off. And the manual says that if you take two images, you expose the first image or every image, one f-stop lower, so that two of them is gonna even it out. For three, you do 1.5 underexposed, and for four, you do 2. So basically, that's what the manual says. That's for manual, okay? So the next choice would be average. Average is basically like additive, except that the computer or the camera, in this case, I have a tendency to call the camera a computer because to me it is a computer that takes picture. And the camera takes care of it, okay? Other than that, it's really not that much difference, with one exception that later I'm going to tell you about, which is kind of very neat feature that not very many people know. So I'm going to tell you that. But right now, Okay, well, I tend to do everything myself, so I shoot mostly in manual. So in this case, I'm going to control it myself as well. Doesn't mean that I'm better than the camera, but I'm a control freak, I guess. Okay, now the next one is the number of exposure. So you can choose whatever, right? So I've never really tried. Okay, so maximum is 9. So it let you do 9. Um, in this example, I'm gonna just do 3. Okay, so the next one is continue. Now the one shot is what it says, meaning that I set this one after I finish the multiple exposure, it goes back to the normal shooting mode. Okay, reset itself. Now, if I choose continuously, the next time is going to go back to multiple exposure, and it keeps going back until you change this thing to one shot. Okay, so normally I only use it occasionally, so I'm going to just stay on one shot. Now, the last one gives you the option that, okay, you can take the first picture, and then you choose that as the first picture, and then the reason it does is it allow you to go elsewhere, at a later time. You go take another picture. For example, one of the artistic thing that you often see is like, so you take a picture of like a couple, you know, like kind of overexposed in white, like say a wedding, and then you take that and then you choose it as the first image. And then you go outside to a bed of flowers that got a lot of bright flowers or whatever. And then you take the second exposure, and the flowers would be framed within the two-person silhouette. And that is select image for multiple exposure allows you to do. Later, I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay, with that, I'm going to show you quickly how this thing works. And I press menu a couple of times to get out. So here I got this figurine just for the purpose of demonstration. Okay, so I'm in additive mode, which means manual control. So I'm going to take 3 pictures, and the manual says that, okay, you better do 1.5 under. So right now I'm roughly 1.5 under. That's good enough. So I can't really do a half, right? Because it's the third system. Okay, so I'm going to take the first picture. Okay, and it's flashing on the upper left, that tells me I got 2 more to do. So one way to do it is to go over here. Normally I would refocus it, but in this case, um, because I'm using HDMI output to record this, so my touchscreen doesn't work anymore. I can't really touch it to refocus, which is focused to the right. So I'm going to just take a picture. That's the second picture. As you can see, the interesting thing about this, it'll give you the preview of what you're going to see. So that's very useful. So you can actually compose your picture by looking at it, right? So in this case, it's simple. I'm going to just like do a triple image. So I take the third picture. Okay, and I press the preview because I don't have the auto preview selected. Okay, so you see a 3 image there in multiple exposure, and you see that the exposure is rather bright. Okay, because I guess I could have done it a little darker, slightly overexposed because it's additive. right? So the three exposure can add up on top of each other. That's why the background. Oh, incidentally, I chose black background for this purpose. When it's white, it's gonna compete with your image that you're interested in and make it a mess. So you kind of have to play around to get the images that you like. Okay. Um, all right. So once I take a picture, it's gone, right? So it reset back to normal. So here I'm going just to take a picture, a normal picture, and later I'm going to use this picture as the main one. Accidentally do too. I do that a lot with the high speed. All right, no matter. Okay, so I have that. Let's go back to the menu, and I'm going to enable it, right? And again, I'm going to do 3 shots, same thing, except this time I go here and I select the image. Okay, the camera is smart enough. It look at the images that it has and set. This must be the one that you're interested in. Of course, you can change it, right, to a different image, but it usually select an image that it thinks that you're going to use. So in this case, I'm going to use this one, so I press set. Okay, so it said, okay, that will be the first image. Now be careful because this image, whatever the setting is, the exposure setting, 1/60th, f2, ISO 800, and this, that is the setting is going to use for all 3 images. Okay, so you guys said it right. In this case, I had it set correctly, same thing. Okay, in this example, I'm not varying the scene, but theoretically, you can go to a totally different scene and try to match it, right? And that will work too. And now I'm gonna exit this. Okay, now just for kicks, right? I already got first image. I can go over here, right? And take a picture elsewhere, and this is what I mean. So you kind of have to look and see where do you want it, right? You don't necessarily have to do what I'm doing, but in this example, I'm going to just do the same 3, okay? And I can't really focus, so I'm going to just press a button, and so it gives me that. So here's the 3rd picture. Okay, preview. And I have basically the same shot as before, except that my first image is taken, I could taken it yesterday, come back later, and I can still do it, right? So, all right. So one last one of the feature that not very many people talk about, they do talk about it, but they rarely talk about this utility. Like say if you're just interested in taking a single picture, so you're not doing the fancy, triple exposure like this, right? One thing that you can take advantage of the multiple exposure is to reduce the noise. For example, in some condition, um, here, let me show you an example. Okay, so for this picture, right? For whatever reason, just for the sake of argument, I need to be taking this guy at f11, okay? And I need to be taking this picture at 1/200 of a second, right? So now it's really dark, and I have to bump up my ISO quite a bit just to get there, right? Well, I don't really want to go beyond 25/600, but Okay, so I'm gonna back off on the shutter speed a little bit so that it will be a little brighter. Okay, I'm gonna do -2 because again, it's gonna add up. All right. So here, let me take a picture first. Make sure that, okay, so now it's a normal picture, right? I'm gonna take this picture with ISO 25600 and zoom in and show you. As you can see that look at his face, right? The figurine's face. It's very noisy. The background's also very noisy. Correct. So now that's the regular picture. All right. So now what I can do, okay, to reduce the noise without um, using post processing any of that, I could use a multiple exposure to do this, and I'll show you how. And this is, they don't talk about it very often, but it does work. Okay, so I go in here and I'm going to enable it. Now, in order for the noise reduction feature to work, you got to let the camera takes care of it. So you can't do it manually because there's no way for you to reduce the noise manually. So you have to go use the average mode. Okay, so the average mode, camera takes care of it, computer takes care of it. Okay, so in this case, because I'm interested in reducing the noise, I want maybe 5. You know, the more pictures, the better for the noise. So why don't I do 6? Okay, right? And okay, so now same thing, right? ISO 25600. I'm going to take 6 pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, if I zoom in, see how clean that image is? At ISO 25600, it looks more like 800. If I take 10 pictures, it's even better. But I just chose to do 6. Okay. And now, if you compare that with the previous image, I have to unzoom it first. Okay, and then I zoom. This is a previous image, a single image. You can see how noisy that is. It's a huge difference. Okay, so this composite image, extremely clean at ISO 25600. Okay, so this is the little known fact, and it's very useful when when you need to do the noise cleanup. All right. Hope that helps you. I will see you in another episode. Thank you.